If you don't already know this about me, I actually collect both tarot decks and oracle decks. They are slightly different, but are used often for the same purposes, which is to do card readings to help you interpret the past, the future, the present, things like that. I use them and I do readings for people. I'm still very green, I guess I would say, with that, because I've only been doing that for a little over a year. But I use it more as a way to spark a discussion with yourself about the particular thing that you came to the cards to discuss or to question. So that's just a little background there. I collect both. I love the beautiful artwork and the history and the information you get in the decks and things like that. However, this is a good time to remind you that a lot of the oracle decks in particular, which are usually based on a specific set of folklore or a specific theme or a specific piece of history, that kind of thing, a lot of the oracle decks will have Egyptian themes. And one of the oracle decks that I have is called the Egyptian Book of the Dead Oracle. It's based on the Egyptian Book of the Dead. That's a whole nother topic. I tried to read it once. I could not get through it, so I never finished it. But I think this would be a good time to remind you about a particular god, a particular oracle card that I happen to have in this deck, the card of Anubis. But anyway, this is a great deck, by the way. So Anubis, this is a deity that is associated very much so with metamorphosis or transformation. He's connected with, crossings. He's supposed to help you get through the duat. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you happen to be passing through the underworld and whatnot, he is very much associated with liminal spaces and thresholds. And another thing that you should know about me, if you don't, is that I am obsessed with the idea of liminal spaces. If you don't know, liminal spaces are just spaces that are created because of a liminal moment in time. And a liminal moment in time is just a moment that is so significant. It divides your life or your journey into a before and an after moment regarding that particular moment in time. An example from my life, huge liminal moment in my life is when I had my near fatal accident that caused my brain injury. There was before my brain injury and after my brain injury. And before the accident, before that liminal moment, those liminal spaces didn't exist in that way. There wasn't before and after the brain injury. There was just my life up into that moment, with other smaller liminal spaces that have been created over time, but obviously that was a big one. So Anubis is very much this god, this deity of liminal spaces and thresholds and metamorphoses. And mostly, I guess, when you're like looking at that card and you're thinking about that, that might sound sort of depressing, but it isn't necessarily. Sure, I mean, metamorphosis, thresholds, walking into a new identity or a new life or a different life even, whether that difference is small or large, that's always very frightening. And the reason that we get scared of things like that, the reason we get scared of representations like Anubis that represent metamorphosis and change and things like that is because, and I'm very much like this, I don't like change at all, but the reason we don't like this is because there is very rarely a period of change, a threshold, a door we have to walk through, a metamorphosis, such a big word, transformation, such a big word, that happens that does not involve discomfort, if not actual pain, if not something as severe as what you might dub misery. And nobody likes discomfort or pain or misery, right? And that's kind of where in these oracle decks, especially with the Egyptian themes, where Anubis comes in, and you can really take either a positive or negative outlook on that, and you can focus on liminal spaces and the metamorphosis and the pain and the change and all of that negative stuff. And you could leave it right there and you could never go beyond that. But the thing about liminal moments in your life and in your journeys is that they can't be liminal without an after. If it was just a liminal moment that didn't create any liminal spaces of before and after that moment, then it really wouldn't be a liminal moment. It would just be a regular moment. The fact that it is a liminal moment, the fact that it's related to metamorphosis or transformation, the liminal nature of it means there is an after. And the thing about the after is that's where the positive comes in. That's where, if you don't just focus on the negative and then like drop Anubis out and be like, fuck you, Anubis. If you don't stop there and you think about it and you try to shut your emotions down for a minute and go beyond that, what you realize is that the after is where all the good is, where all the positive is, because you're going to go through discomfort and pain, maybe even some misery, and you're going to come out of this on the other side different in some way. Your journey is going to be different. It's going to land you in a different place. It's going to alter your identity. It's going to bring you to new things. And very often, 99% of the time, there's a lot of positive on the other side of that liminal moment. There's a lot of positive in those new things. And so while the instinct might be to say, hey, Anubis is here, negative, 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 and we'll just leave it at that, really what we're supposed to be focusing on is, okay, there's this he represents likely that there's this liminal moment, and then there's going to be the before. And usually by the time you're at a point where you're thinking about things deeply, or you're trying to consult cards or anything like that, usually by that time you're already into the period of discomfort or pain or misery. And so it's easy to be like, ugh, Anubis, or ugh, everything is negative, I knew it, and to just stay there. But again, liminal moment means there has to be an after. And a lot of times that after is going to involve a lot of positivity. And so you kind of have to wait for the after. You kind of have to see the liminal moment through, and you have to enter the liminal space of the after. And that's where you're going to find the things you probably need the most.